The 2026 Dakar Rally isn't just another race. For Honda, it's a reckoning. After years of chasing KTM's shadow, winning in 2020, 2021, and 2024, only to watch the Orange Wall rebuild, this is the moment they've engineered to finally break the cycle. But in the desert, engineering plans meet human desperation, and that's where the real story lives. Since 2001, the Austrian manufacturer has been the default answer for rally dominance. But recent performance pressure and team restructuring suggest the gap has closed completely. While everyone focuses on the riders, the real story is the engineering shift in the HRC bivouac that makes this year different. To understand why the Orange Wall might finally crumble, look at the battlefield itself. Section 1. The 2026 Battlefield: Terrain and Technical Demands. Let's analyze the 2026 route structure. While the fearsome dunes of the empty quarter return, the overall route balance places a massive new emphasis on technical complexity. The empty quarter represents pure horsepower and high-speed stability, endless dunes where you pin the throttle and surf. KTM has historically dominated that specific type of riding. But outside those dunes, the requirement shifts dramatically from raw power to agility and navigation precision. For huge sections of this race, you aren't floating over sand. You're wrestling a 150-kilogram machine through boulder fields, your forearms screaming, your concentration razor-thin because one wrong line means a crash that costs you hours, or the race. A heavy, stable bike becomes a liability. It wants to deflect off rocks. It wants to fight you. But a nimble chassis? It dances, it listens, and after 2 weeks of this, listening matters more than horsepower. Then consider the Yanbu to Yanbu loop structure, and this impacts team logistics and mechanic fatigue significantly compared to point-to-point races. In a standard rally, the support crews are driving all day, setting up camp, fixing bikes all night, and tearing down camp at dawn. It's a war of attrition for the mechanics. With a loop, the bivouac stays put. Mechanics are fresher. They have more time to focus on precision tuning rather than just emergency repairs. This levels the playing field. It reduces the advantage of KTM's massive support army and puts the focus back on the machine's durability. We also have to talk about the specific navigation updates for 2026. The organization is cracking down on follow-the-leader tactics. In the past, riders would strategically lose time to start behind a fast navigator and just follow their dust. New validation protocols force riders to rely more on their own roadbook interpretation. If you strictly follow tracks, you risk missing validation points. This increases the mental load on the rider. When your brain is tired, you need a bike that is physically easier to ride. This terrain shift favors Honda's chassis balance over KTM's traditional straight-line sand dominance. Honda has spent the last few years refining the CRF 450 Rally to be the most rideable bike in technical sections. They sacrificed some top-end stability for cornering and handling. In the dunes, that was a liability. On this new route, it's a weapon. You can see it in how the bikes react to rocky climbs. The Honda looks planted while the KTM often looks like it wants to deflect. The battlefield has changed, but the target on KTM's back remains the same size. Section 2. The Orange Wall: KTM's Defense and Vulnerabilities. You cannot talk about the Dakar without acknowledging the sheer density of the Austrian machinery. Go to any rally bivouac, and it is a sea of orange, white, and red. That isn't an accident. For a privateer or a factory rider, the KTM 450 Rally replica has historically been the safest place to put your money. It is a known quantity. You know how the steel trellis frame flexes when you hit a camel grass clump at 120 kilometers per hour. You know the engine has that specific torque curve that pulls you out of deep trouble. It is the Toyota Hilux of the motorcycle world. Maybe not always the absolute fastest in a straight drag race against a prototype, but it finishes. Or at least it used to finish with boring regularity. That reputation is exactly what they are bringing to the 2026 starting line, banking on the idea that proven beats new. Then look at who is twisting the throttle. KTM's strategy has always been to buy the best hands in the business. For 2026, they are blending the old guard with fresh aggression. You have the established legends who know how to manage a 2-week race, but pay attention to the new blood like Edgar Kane. Bringing in young talent like Kane is not just about filling a seat. It is about pushing the older riders. When you have a kid on the same equipment who is willing to take risks you stopped taking 5 years ago, it forces the entire team pace to elevate. It creates an internal pressure cooker. But high pressure is where cracks start to show, not just in the riders, but in the metal itself. This is where the narrative gets interesting. If you watched the recent W2RC stages closely, you might have noticed the strain on the machinery. The bulletproof reputation faces new questions as the pace intensifies. We aren't just talking about crashes. We're talking about the immense stress on components. It seems like the platform might be reaching the limit of its performance envelope. For 20 years, KTM riders could ride smart. They could manage the race, trust the bike, and let their experience carry them home. But now they have to ride angry. They have to match Honda's pace, push harder, take risks they wouldn't normally take. And every time you push a 450 beyond its design envelope, you're gambling. The bike might hold, or it might break. And in the desert, broken means finished. There is a dangerous trap in winning too much. It is the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" mentality. While Honda has been forced to reinvent their bike to catch up, KTM has largely been refining the same concept. Evolution is safer than revolution, sure, but it leads to stagnation. The chassis geometry that worked perfectly in the wide-open dunes of the empty quarter might not be the sharpest tool for the technical rocks of Yanbu. They are relying on a suspension setup and a frame flex character designed for a different era of rally racing. They are betting that their legacy data is still relevant, but the terrain changes we just talked about suggest the game has moved on while they were polishing their trophies. However, KTM has one advantage that is nearly impossible to engineer around: volume. They effectively run 3 factory teams under one umbrella: KTM, Husqvarna, and GasGas. They aren't just racing, they are data harvesting on a massive scale. If a GasGas rider finds a suspension setting that works on Stage 3, that data is in the KTM tablets for Stage 4. They have more bullets in the chamber. If their lead rider blows an engine or gets lost, they have 3 other guys in the top 10 ready to inherit the lead. It is a strategy of attrition. They don't need the perfect bike. They just need one of their 12 factory-spec machines to survive longer than the Hondas. It is a brute force strategy. Throw enough resources, enough world-class riders, and enough spare parts at the desert, and statistically, you should win. It is playing the odds. But racing isn't played on a spreadsheet. While KTM is playing this massive numbers game, hoping that quantity has a quality all its own, Honda has gone the other direction. They haven't built an army. They have refined a specific weapon designed to exploit the exact weaknesses we are seeing in the Austrian armor. Section 3. HRC's War Machine, the Poker of Aces strategy. If KTM is playing the numbers game with a shotgun approach, hoping one pellet hits the target, Honda has chosen to bring a sniper rifle, or rather, 4 very specific, high-caliber sniper rifles. They call it the Monster Energy Honda HRC team, but looking at the roster for 2026, it looks less like a standard race team and more like a carefully curated tactical unit. They aren't relying on a dozen support riders to clog up the leaderboard. They have narrowed their focus to 4 pilots who each bring a distinct superpower to the table: Ricky Brabeck, Tosha Sharena, Adrian Van Beveren, and Skylar Howes. This is what insiders are calling the Poker of Aces strategy. They aren't betting on luck. They are betting that one of these 4 specialists is the perfect key for the 2026 lock. Let's start with the hot hand. You cannot talk about Honda's chances in 2026 without looking directly at Tosha Sharena. If you haven't been following the World Rally Raid Championship closely, you might have missed the shift, but the paddock knows. Tosha isn't the future anymore. He is the right now. His recent victory in the Rally du Maroc wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Morocco is traditionally the dress rehearsal for Dakar. It has similar terrain, the same navigation pressure, and all the factory teams are there testing their final setups. For Sharena to go there and dominate proves that his raw speed has finally synced up with his navigation maturity. He used to be the fast guy who might make a mistake. Now he is the fast guy who controls the race from the front. That momentum is dangerous. When a rider lines up in Yanbu, knowing they just beat the entire field in the last major meetup, that confidence is worth 5 horsepower. But confidence means nothing if the bike creates doubt. This brings us to the weapon itself, the updated CRF 450 Rally. Honda has been very quiet about the specifics, but if you look at the spy shots and listen to the bivouac chatter, the changes are significant and targeted. Remember what we said about the route emphasizing technical agility alongside the dunes? Honda engineers anticipated this. The 2026 spec bike features a revised weight distribution designed specifically for the technical, rocky sections of Saudi Arabia. They have likely moved the fuel load lower and more central. In the dunes, you want stability, but in the rocks, you want a bike that pivots. By lowering that center of gravity, they have made the bike less physically exhausting to wrestle through trial-like sections. The electronics package has also seen a massive overhaul. The feedback from the 2025 W2RC season highlighted some fuel management issues when the pace varied wildly between high-speed flats and low-gear crawling. The new mapping allows the riders to manage consumption more precisely without sacrificing that snap they need to loft the front wheel over a washout. And let's be honest about durability. Honda learned some hard lessons in 2025. They have reinforced the subframe and updated the clutch assembly to handle the abuse of the new Yanbu loop format. They aren't bringing a bike designed for a drag race. They are bringing a bike designed for a street fight in a rock garden. Then you have the stabilizer, the American General, Ricky Brabec. Entering his 11th Dakar, Brabec is the counterweight to Sherena's aggression. Ricky has nothing left to prove. He knows exactly how to win this race because he has done it. His role in this poker of aces is crucial because he doesn't panic. When the young riders see a stage result and freak out because they lost 3 minutes, Ricky knows that the race is 2 weeks long. His experience allows him to ride at 95% while everyone else is riding at 110% and breaking their bikes. He is the insurance policy. If the race turns into a navigation nightmare where patience pays off, Brabec is the favorite. And we can't ignore the specialists. Adrian Van Beveren, AVB, is arguably the best sand rider on the planet. Even with the empty quarter gone, there is still plenty of sand, and his technical ability to read dunes saves him energy that other riders waste. Then you have Skylar Howes, who brings a cerebral, strategic approach that complements the raw speed of the others. This is the brilliance of Honda's structure. They haven't just hired 4 fast guys. They've built a team where each rider knows exactly what the others can do, and more importantly, what they can't. When Van Beveren is drowning in the dunes, he knows Sherena is waiting to pounce on the technical sections. When Brabec is managing the race like a chess player, Howes is ready to adapt if the plan falls apart. They're not competing against each other, they're competing through each other. That's a different kind of dangerous. That's a team that doesn't break under pressure because they've already decided they won't. The evidence is on the timesheets. Look at the team's performance across the 2025 W2RC season. They weren't just winning stages, they were consistently putting multiple bikes in the top 5 on completely different types of terrain. That consistency proves the platform is ready. KTM relies on having more bikes to survive the attrition. Honda has built a machine and a team designed to avoid the attrition altogether. They have stripped away the variables. But while Honda and KTM are locked in this heavyweight title fight, staring each other down, they might be ignoring the noise coming from the cheap seats. Because while the giants are fighting, the rest of the field has been busy catching up. Section 4. The Disruptors, Sherco's Persistence, and the Kove Threat. Honda and KTM are the main event, but ignoring the rest of the field is how you lose the rally. There is a blue shadow that has been stalking the factory teams for years. Sherco, they are the perennial dark horse of the Dakar. They don't have the infinite budget of HRC or the massive armada of KTM, but they have Lorenzo Santolino and a machine that simply refuses to quit. Sherco's limitation has historically been raw top-end speed. On the wide-open salt flats and fast dunes, they bleed time to the Japanese and Austrian factory missiles. But remember the terrain shift we discussed? With the 2026 route prioritizing agility and technical navigation over straight-line horsepower, that speed deficit becomes irrelevant. Their reliability record is the variable that keeps them in the conversation. Santolino is the master of the steady hand strategy. He rarely wins stages, but he rarely falls out of the top 10. In a race defined by the new Yanbu loop and mechanic fatigue, a bike that doesn't need to be rebuilt every night is a massive strategic advantage. While the big factory teams are stressing over high-performance experimental parts and shaving grams off subframes, Sherco is running a platform that is proven, stable, and ready to pick up the pieces when the prototypes overextend themselves. They are waiting for the mistakes that high pressure always creates. But the real disruption, the one that actually threatens the business model of rally racing, isn't coming from Europe. It is coming from China. Kove has shifted from being a paddock curiosity to a legitimate market threat, and they are dismantling the entry barrier for rally raid. A few years ago, the idea of a Chinese motorcycle finishing the Dakar was treated as a joke. Now it is a serious reality that cannot be ignored. The Kove 450 rally has evolved rapidly from a cheap alternative into a legitimate stage finisher. Look at what riders like Javi Vega have accomplished. They are proving that you don't need a mortgage-sized budget to cross the finish line in Yanbu. This creates what we call the Kove effect. A few years ago, the paddock laughed at Chinese motorcycles. Now riders are finishing the Dakar on Koves, and the premium brands are terrified. Because if a kid can cross the finish line on a budget bike, it means the expensive machines aren't invincible anymore. It means the myth is broken, and when myths break, empires start to crumble. Their aggressive pricing and improving reliability force Honda and KTM to justify their massive costs through superior performance. It isn't enough for the factory teams to just win anymore. They have to dominate. They have to show a performance gap so wide that it justifies the millions of dollars in development. The presence of competitive budget bikes puts immense pressure on the factories to push their engineering to the absolute limit. They cannot play it safe when the budget bike is nipping at their heels. This pressure to perform leads to risks, risks lead to mistakes, and mistakes lead to DNFs. The grid is stacked, the machines are prepped, and the predictions are more difficult than ever. Conclusion: the verdict. So, here is the verdict. The 2026 route favors agility over brute force, handing a slight technical edge to the updated Honda CRF 450 Rally over the sheer volume of the KTM Armada. Honda built a scalpel for a rock fight, while KTM is still swinging a sledgehammer. Drop a comment with your winner prediction: Honda, KTM, or a dark horse. And subscribe if you want the honest breakdown of Stage 1 results.